Welcome back to the Schemeology podcast. How the hell are you doing, Jared?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Jack? Ready to talk about some college scheming?
I mean, this is a topic both you and I are very passionate about as fellow
Oh
college
yeah.
dropouts turned schemers.
I feel like the college age is the perfect time to scheme. Most people never they never scheme ever, but it's like the most high risk reward time in your life is going to be 18 to 25. Might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, you have nothing to lose. Most of the time, you have way more time on your hands than you give credit. You like
Yeah.
to pretend like you're really busy in college, but the reality is most college is really easy. And like a lot of
Yeah.
programs are not that time consuming, and most people are just getting drunk and partying all the time. And they have lots of extra time for scheming. You could dedicate a couple hours to scheming a week in college at a minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if you're going to like dedicate your life to being a schemer, a dreamer, late night non-believer, then you might as well do it in between classes. Like I feel like every moment I had in my 2 quarters at a university, 2.5 quarters at university, I was always constantly thinking about something that wasn't the class, and I had a great time.
I mean, me too. I mean, I went, ironically, I became a crypto bro before it was cool. So like,
Yeah,
and
crypto
like
hipster.
by December of my freshman year, I was just trading cryptocurrency online. I should say I was starting off with like 500 bucks in it, but it
Yeah,
was just right place at the right time. But that led me down the path of like by the beginning of sophomore year, I was working at a crypto full time, and in the middle of each class, I was scheming hard. It was like 20% paying attention to class and 80% focusing on my schemes. And that was like at least 80% of my college experience before I
yeah.
dropped out.
Yeah, like it's funny. Most of it, I was like networking a ton because my plan was like, I feel like it was like, because I remember telling my dad, I was like, yeah, I don't want to go to college when I was like 16 or 17. And he was like, you should go. I think he was like, he believed in me because I like had a plan. I still was like, having a plan. But he was like, you should still go. So every time I had this mind going in that I'm never finishing this. And I think that made it a lot more of an enjoyable time for me. Like,
Yeah. So you think that because you went into it with the mindset of like, I'm not sure this is a good fit, you had
yeah,
more fun?
yeah. Actually, I feel like because I knew like the first week, like orientation, I was like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna like move to New York and work in tech, which I did, uh, and I felt like things didn't matter as much. Like I was still like stressed out because I was in between the two worlds, and I was like, going to financial aid and like dealing with all that, and then I was like, I had a moment where I'm like, you know what? Most of the things I'm gonna learn in my life like I already had by that time I was already working coding jobs throughout high school. I was already doing a lot of things, and I was like, I already know how to learn shit. So it's like, why am I like I don't have to stress about anything. Once you know that you can hit any problem in your life, there's no issues. Like you can always bounce back. You always learn whatever, like anything, you know?
Yeah. I always say thank God that I was building Minecraft servers in high school because some
Yeah,
of them got popular enough for me to realize, like, holy shit, I could build a business. Like, I could make six
yeah,
figures just on the internet scheming my ass off at 16. And I was like, well, imagine how much more money I could make with like more friends, resources, knowledge, and experience on the
yeah,
internet. Like it's already possible now at level zero with no like wisdom, knowledge, experience, business acumen, or any of that shit, I was already able to do it. So it really kind of set me on the path for success, which is like, I think if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, starting as young as possible, even if it's small, even if you're in high school selling, textbooks to friends, or I used to like literally in eighth grade, I would get kids to pay me to make them origami or like weird, dumb little and it was such a scheme, but I would like
that's
convince them it
such a
was
scam.
cool. I was like, oh yeah, you think this is cool? Yeah,
Yeah.
not everyone knows how to do it. And then I would like get idiots to give me money for that. And only a couple, but like I nurtured my scheming abilities from a young age, which gave me the confidence when I was an adult to just believe in myself and keep pushing.
Yeah, it's funny. There's like, well, actually, I have a question. As a college dropout schemer, do you feel like you leverage your college network well, or do you think you could have done it better, or did you? What does it not matter as much as people think?
So like even though I dropped out, was I really leveraging I went to Syracuse for reference
Right.
for the time that I was there. I did I leveraged it a lot. Like as much as I could and as much as it was helpful, it wasn't that helpful is the
Yeah.
short of it, but I got as much out of it as I could, and you can get a fair amount out of it. Like by the end of college or by the time I dropped out, which was my first semester soft junior year, I had like a core group of like 5 or 10 entrepreneurs at Syracuse who are all working on things and trying really hard and were smart. And so I knew those people were going to make it eventually. So I had that core group of people, and that gave me like a small networking community. And then I kept in touch with a couple of the entrepreneurship like incubators on campus at Syracuse, and they would bring me back to do like speaker sessions to mentor entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
and they kept sending me younger entrepreneurs, which I love mentoring younger people. And it's not so much like it was never really like let me tell you what to do. It was like let's think through what you're working on together. And if I
Yeah.
didn't know something, I'd be like, I don't know shit about that, man. But you can talk to my buddy Jared. He's an expert. He's a great engineer, and he could probably point you in the right direction. And so it gave me stuff to do and momentum. And I think like if you're in college, one of the most important things you can focus on is like how can you continually be building momentum into your career and your life,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can do that through mentoring, through small speaking engagements, however small it is. It doesn't matter as long as you're getting a little bit more experience, a little bit more exposure, a little bit more credibility under your belt. Like keep chasing momentum and allow yourself to have a lot of different areas that can bring you momentum into your life, like mentorship, like a YouTube, like doing social media, like having a side hustle, like starting an
Yeah.
e-commerce website. There's always something you can do to build momentum into your life and especially into your career.
Yeah. Like I feel like the momentum thing, it's so important to just like have a really open heart with a ton of opportunities and just put yourself in a ton of different places. Like the more courage you are, like chase the courage, not the liquid courage, but chase, but like chase like everything that's like gives you a little like your hands like a little like just do more things like that, and I feel like you'll just always end up fine. But like I think there's a moment, it's so funny to say because it's like almost like retroactive, like or thinking of it in hindsight. Where in the moment things just feel so like intense and anxious when you're young. But the funny thing is, and because I'll mentor, I just mentored or gave advice, I guess, on a call to this one girl who's like starting to get into contracting and like starting a business where she's selling or she's like building SaaS products and things like that. And it was funny because like they'll get so anxious. People that are on a call, like they reached out to someone they thought could give them good advice, went out of their way, and are taking notes on a call. Who's like 20 or something will genuinely be insecure and anxious that they're not working hard enough.
I
you know,
know. That's
and it's like,
that's
dude,
that's the
it's
funniest
like
thing.
get the grand scope of your life. Like you're so ahead. Like that's like
Right.
crazy that like compared to the average people.
Well, yeah,
And
because the
yeah,
average is not even no effort. Like it's like debt. You have like
yeah,
emotional
yeah,
debt, you've got career debt, you've got like soul debt, you've got debt on every single level. So if you're just like reaching out and trying hard, like trying to
yeah,
learn from people, trying to make new connections, you are literally ahead of 99% of people, and you haven't even like leveled up in any regard. You're just trying.
yeah.
Base effort is ahead of 99% of people.
And it's so funny because like, and also it's like you don't have to like see yourself in comparison, but like, which is like it's actually good that they're anxious because it's almost like they're not comparing themselves to other people. They're like comparing themselves to something like some greater. They're pushing themselves, but it's like because there's a other side to that where it's like if you don't let go of that, you can become the perfectionist self development junkie, which isn't a bad route because you'll like by the time you're like in your late 20s, early 30s, you'll probably be like a leader or you'll have like a lot of resource network. But I know a lot of people that are like, I totally look back at my 20s and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't do anything in all this. So there's like it's a, it's a balance, I guess. It
Yeah,
sucks to be someone that didn't do anything though. Like it
it
does
does
really
suck to
suck.
be. It does really suck. I mean, we all have self doubt, and like I look back at a lot of the stuff I've done over the last 5 or 6 years, and I go, what the fuck was I thinking? That was not the best use of my time. Like that scheme kind of sucked. I didn't even really want to do that. I did it because this guy got me in, and he was excited, and I just didn't really want to make a decision, so I went along with it, and or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
I think the thing I beat myself up the most about is just like not trying. And it's like
Yeah.
it's been such a refreshing feeling to even work on this podcast and like make YouTube clips with you because it's like I want to try and I'm like
Yeah. Yeah.
interested in learning and improving. And it's like the more you can just chase doing stuff where you like improving or like you're for whatever reason you're inclined to keep doing it and you actually want to try, it's rare to want to try. So find
Yeah.
stuff you like trying and like you care about doing that when no one's watching and just
Yeah.
because that's what you and I would have these conversations and you and I would think about like how can we like you know share our view of the world to help other people be successful, and now we're trying to do this thing and it's like if there's any hope of us being successful, it's just because we like doing it and we want to keep doing it, like that's really it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like a moment where you kind of like realize, oh wait, like once you get a recipe for something, this is the scary moment, and this is where I think a lot of people don't. This is like the fork in the road moment especially in like business and things that I see, and I'm not. I don't want to get into this. This is why I like care about this because I don't ever want to fall into this trap. Is as soon as you like feel like something's working, a lot of people will like get scared because of like all of the big all the things that could go wrong, and then they'll stop but they do it because they figured something out that works.
Mm.
Because like once you figure out something that works, it's like you realize, oh wait, I'm gonna have to take on more responsibility like every day,
And I
and I'm
could
gonna
fuck
have
it up too, which
and
is
I
like
could
the
fuck it up,
yeah.
and like there's like a social thing. It's like people are gonna see, and it's like, and oh, it's a really good thing for dealing with that. I think is like, oh, this is huge if you're like a college or a young guy and you want to like excel or like get higher performance. Do something that's performance based, uh, especially like social to some extent, more often because I think that helps a ton with like that dealing with anxiety of like, oh no, like that performance anxiety, like because if you don't know how to deal with performance anxiety in your professional life, it's gonna happen eventually. Because that's like, if you can't deal with that, you're gonna be fucked. You're gonna be royally fucked.
Yeah, so like I think that kind of is like a simple thing to chase. It's like you have a metric that you can tie it towards, and for me it was community building. So like I could, when I joined this crypto sophomore year of college, it was the first game in crypto. It had maybe 25 members of the Slack channel, and then
Yeah,
like maybe a couple hundred other people strewn across a bunch of different social platforms. And from maybe October of 2016 to May of 2017, the Slack channel that I was managing, the Discord channels I'm managing, went from a couple dozen members to thousands upon thousands of members, ultimately to tens of thousands of members within a year. And I was the guy running the show and doing the charge. So it was like I knew my efforts were warranted. And not only that, like there was a cult of people who were around me, and I was indoctrinating and convincing to, you know, you know, to be interested in the project we were working on. And I was a dumb 19-year-old, and they knew I was a dumb 19-year-old. And like I didn't hide that fact. I just was like, and it became almost like a meme in all their Discord and community channels. Was like this guy Jack, we really like him. He does a really great job. Also, it's insane. He's 19. Like
yeah, yeah,
we're all adults in here, and he's the youngest of all of us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel like there is like the more you can, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, like why is this person, they're young and they're doing this. It's like it's probably because they're escalating a lot when it comes to how they perform, like more so than you. Like that's usually why some people develop earlier in success. It's like they're just like more used to taking on that like anxiety of like everything's on you, let me do it and crush. Oh, another thing that's huge is like this is more like if you want to really get super good at stuff. I feel like in that college age is like have your money be tied to your performance and own your time when it, even if it's a low amount of money, like you're tutoring, teaching people how to play guitar or like skateboard or something. Like if you own your time, uh, you'll be able to like really that feedback loop you need to like crush and get super good at whatever you do. It needs to be a really you need to like know okay today I need to spend 2 hours at this time learning this. I don't know. For me, it would be like something, some programming related thing, right? And so it's like I need to know that I need to focus on this, and you can't do that. It's really hard to do that when you're like when you have like a 40 plus hour job and you're like doing all these. Like, it's really good to get used to owning your time, and then you could scale up your little side hustle business that you like to do, and then you could be like scheduling meetings where it's like okay maybe a lot of guys now are like teaching people like fitness stuff in gyms, so and that's how they make money. So it's like this week you can like set up 20 hours, and then in between those hours you're like working on your side business, and then this week you'll scale that down to 10 hours because you need to focus on this one thing, because timing's so crucial at success. I think it's like if you don't get the time, and the time like the time comes and goes, you know, but you got
Yes.
to like be able to ride the wave, and if you own your time you can ride that wave.
Yeah. I think another thing I want young people to be aware of is like success for most people comes in waves. So it's like, I think about businesses my parents have started or family members or friends where for 2 or 3 years they might make $3 million. And then all of a sudden a regulation change or a company
Yeah,
comes out with a product and their revenue goes down to zero. So they
yeah,
had this
yeah,
business in this short window of time that was incredibly lucrative and worked. And they grew, made money, and then it stopped working. And it's like, remember, especially when you're young, that's a great outcome. If you work on
right,
something and you get lots of value, make money, you get momentum, and then it fails and it only works for 2 years, shut it down, reflect, and move on. And go
yeah,
move
yeah,
on to the next thing. Find the next thing you're excited to do, the next thing you're excited to work on. Because money comes in waves. It's not very rarely is it just like I built this one company and it went from 10,000 this year to 100,000 this year and
yeah.
200 and then I worked on it for 35 years. It's like that almost never happens. It's very rare. Very
Yeah.
very rare.
And also it's like as the world's changing, especially if it's like you're doing something, you're trying to, because I'm always focused on I want to build innovative things. Like I focus on that, like my ability to produce a lot in an hour, like be really productive and be able to like almost ride the waves of like the technology I'm using. It's like how do I like get really competent at something that's a lot of high level people are doing, and really like I've really tried to figure out what's the thing that keeps me still as the world's changing. It's like, how do I, it's almost like a stoicism thing where it's like, how do you stay capable in any type of environment? It's like, if you get thrown into anything, it's like the AI stuff comes around and it's like, a year ago, I didn't know any. I mean, I won't say I didn't know anything about AI, but I definitely couldn't tell you how the neural net worked. And like, but I kept, but I was like, okay, how do I like use how I learned these other how do I use how I learned web dev and like app dev and how I learned like how systems work, like how do I apply that to AI? And it's like that's the thing that I kept as the tides kind of changed in the world is like because all these technologies come and go same way your business is going to come, like it depends on your business, but like kind of like what Jack's saying, things are going to come and go. That's just a reality of the markets. What are you retaining throughout time? Like, are you actually like becoming better? Are you becoming someone independent?
If you were 20 right now in your sophomore year at college, like what areas would you start to focus on? Where would you go if you were just starting out and wanted to like work on your first side hustle, get involved in a
Yeah.
business and or make money online? Let's simplify it. If you were 20 and you wanted to make money online, how would you start?
One, get good at content, which Jack and I are getting better at now. But like, yeah, content is huge. Know that language, definitely. But also like 20 is already a time where you kind of already, for a lot of people, you already might know a little bit what you want to do, or you've already done some things. Um, Maybe not done some. That's actually kind of young, but like I feel like if you kind of like look at things that you're naturally good at, and you don't like have be too opinionated, because that's where the anxiety, the analysis paralysis comes in, where people are like, "I need to be the best UFC fighter by the time I'm 30," and they'll say that at 20, and then they'll never go to a UFC class because they made things. The goal was so directed and pointed and big that their the little intrusive thoughts just defeated them. So I would say like try to pick a direction that you know you're gonna have fun in every hour, and that might be silly. Like, and people might say you're stupid for doing it. It might be like you like snowboarding or you like surfing, like something that's like, how can I make money doing that? But it's like, well, there's like skateboarder dudes that are making millions and are sponsored, and they're literally not even like pro level. They're just kind of good on YouTube because they have other attributes. So but they led into, they didn't like say, oh fuck it, I'm just gonna like do college because I can't make money on this. They led into things that they were good at, that they liked, and they just kept doing it. So I would say do that, like find something you're good at and just like build momentum that way.
Yeah, and I think the idea of starting with content or like leaning into content, especially when you're young, the reason it's important is like every business comes down to distribution at the end of the day. And it's like if you don't have distribution figured out, then you're never gonna like it's so
Yeah.
much harder to have to make money if you don't have distribution figured out. Like how are you gonna get your first 10 customers? How are you gonna get your next 100?
Yeah.
And it's like if you're having to always be building and improving a product and then also figuring out how to get your next five customers, you're really going to struggle. But if you have a channel that's constantly bringing in eyeballs, which is a potential pipeline of customers, then you have a much higher likelihood of being able to build something that provides value to that distribution channel that you own, whether it's a YouTube that you make, a TikTok, a Snapchat, an Instagram, etc. You can use that content that you're making to drive eyeballs to some product that either you own or that you're partnered with to sell. It's a
And
very
yeah.
simple scheme, but it works well, and it's because you own distribution and you own the eyeballs.
And also it's like, just build brands and like own and build brands. And the more brands you own, you can just like build businesses around it. But Reed says, "Yo, boys, Jared, do you give credit for the level you're at now in programming to your discipline, intelligence, experience, or all of them?" I mean, I probably have a natural aptitude, mostly because like my parents are in like IT and all that. But I didn't really learn anything specifically from them. I'm just like that. That's just, I just want to give that to them a little bit. But I will say, but I mean, that being said, I started coding super young. Like I started being inundated with a ton of, like I went from only loving football as like a little kid, middle school kid, to like only like having a dream, holding like a C++ book and being like, I will become a god programmer one day, and then like focusing on that every single day. And I mean every single day. And it wasn't like, I actually didn't just want to be a programmer. I wanted to like, I had an idea that I could be so good that I could just like start companies in like days. Like it was more entrepreneurial. Like I wanted, like I had a little, it was a little grandiosity or delusions of grandiosity, if I, but like 100%. I was like, it was definitely delusional, but like I was super super focused. And I also, one thing that I started to really understand the language of programming more once I was in high school, and I started a club, and every week, or and sometimes it was a lot of days of the week, I'd be teaching people the concepts I was learning. And I think if you want to excel at something, being able to communicate the concepts as you're learning them and as you're learning new things, and show it, you're like simplifying things in your mind. Uh, your patience led you, your passion led you to this level. Yeah, yeah,
I think
uh,
that passion almost always leads you to like true expertise. And like for me, the reason I was a good community manager is I was always managing a community of some kind, whether it was with Minecraft servers or communities of my friends or YouTube channels or whatever it was. I was like constantly leading into something where it was like I liked communicating with other people. I liked trying to convince other people of my opinion. Love that. And then secondarily, I like to create an environment where other people felt like they could contribute or they were a part of a collective. So both those things came naturally, which made it much easier for me to continue to build communities and get better and better at that over the last 10 years. And like that was it's no miracle or it's no shocker that that's the thing I've had the most success in. I was always leaning into those attributes and those skills even at a young age, even when I wasn't necessarily building an online community, I was still working on these same fundamental skill
yeah.
sets that are important to community building.
And when I look at like for instance you, Jack, like you can always see someone that's like getting good at a particular skill. And I don't even know if you know what I'm just looking on the outside in on what it is, but it seems like there's always the thing where people, because you're kind of excelling in communication and an ability to like um, kind of like build socially and build these groups and like based on your ability to communicate ideas. And you can see when people get better at things, like for instance you're doing like the boot camps now, like you're also, I'm guessing, like doing sales to some extent and doing like marketing. You're fine, like there's a ton of different ways you're getting better at communicating. And you can probably, if you look back, and I'm not just going to talk for you, but there's probably times where you gave yourself little mini social challenges in your life. That's like common with people that are good at something. Like I remember with coding, and this is really important if you want to like really excel at something. I would build whole projects that I this I'm not saying do this. I'm just saying this is a challenge I gave myself. I would build myself whole projects that I cared about when it was like when I was like a teenager, and then I'd delete them right after. And it was like a little like mental thing, and I knew what I was doing. I was doing it because I was like, I have to get to a point where I don't care. I'm detached from the code itself, and I can fully engage with the process. Because I was at a point where I was like, oh wait, it actually doesn't matter what you make. I mean, it does, but like if you want to get to the next level in a lot of things, you really have to like just enjoy the process and just get into the process and not have so much of an attachment to the outcome. And I think like testing yourself with little mini challenges, it's like, oh, in 1 hour, can I build this? It's like, if can I do it in 30 minutes? You know, it's like, can I like learn a new language just today and like implement a new feature? It's like give yourself like for a social thing. It's like, can I go like start a conversation with like 10 people at this bar and like and actually get one of them to like sign on to like, or like can I sell like a product to like 10 people at this bar or something like that, you know what I mean? Like it's like give
Totally.
yourself little mini challenges.
Totally. It's the art of going of competing against yourself in everything that you do is what makes you better and more competitive in the marketplace, especially when it comes to your career and job and everything else, professional oriented. It's like, you're not a competition with other people. You're a competition with yourself. And you got to remember that. And that's why, like, even now, as we think about content, our thought about content is not, we don't beat ourselves up because we're not getting millions of views, but like I do want to beat myself up if we don't try something new every time we post
Yeah,
something or
yeah,
that like we go live. And you know even now, when every time I come into the podcast, I'm like reviewing footage and thinking about how can I speak better. Like I have a tendency to talk really fast, so I'm like, maybe I can slow it down now. And
yeah,
slowing it down doesn't mean that the content's necessarily going to change. It just means that I'm going to have a more coherent sentence that's more clippable, and then we could maybe get better content out of that. And it's going to take a little bit of effort. It's going to be time and practice. It's not going to be done in this one episode. Even now, I'm going on a rant and I'm speeding up. Look at me go! But it is a conscious effort to improve every single time, and that's what really matters. It's not like the metrics per se, but it is the focus on growth every time you do anything. and like being honest with yourself about whether or not are you trying something new, are you repeating the same thing you've always done? Because if you're just repeating stuff, what the fuck is the point? Let's be
Yeah.
really honest with ourselves.
And also like when you're constantly trying to improve, you're not like the outcome matters a ton. Like when you're trying to like put things down on the line and like work to like hit a specific goal. But when you're just doing work, I think it's really good to like not, it's like, okay, you're trying something new. When you're trying that new thing, like really try to take yourself away from what happens at the end and just like go on the ride and like just go on the adventure of what your work is. And then like once you feel like you're competent, then hit a mark and like be like, I'm gonna get it and we're gonna get this outcome. Reed says, but back to the topic of college, I feel like unless you want to become a researcher, doctor, or lawyer, university is useless, even on the top ones. What do you think about that?
I have a lot of thoughts here. I think I used to say that college, I used to have the same opinion, which was that, college is useless unless you are going into something science, engineering oriented, you're building airplanes, you're a doctor, you're a PhD, you're study science. And I think that might be true. But I think the reason that college appeals to such a large swath of people is because there's a lot of people who don't know how to scheme. Like they don't have the entrepreneurial hardware, the self-starter hardware, the self-belief. They want to be given a path and a set of criteria. Like, what are the logical steps I need to follow in order to get, a job as a sales guy? And then from sales guy, I'm going to work my way up at that company. They can follow linear progressions. And I no longer fault those people. And I think that that's a fair way. If you're like that and you want a linear progression and you don't have motivations to start your own business and do your own thing, I think going to college might make sense as long as you're being honest with yourself that the expensive degree you're paying for is going to actually get you a job at the end. But if you're going to go become a salesperson or a marketing person, you can take online courses, you can go follow a linear progression to get skills focused towards those career paths, and then you can put effort into getting a job, which you'll have to do after college anyway. And you may start lower, but you'll have way less debt. So I actually think there's a nuance here, but I think the real thing a lot of people need is they need to be told what to do. Not everyone's a free thinker. Not everyone is a
Yeah.
schemer. Not everyone is capable of going from nothing, literally nothing, and then somehow figuring out all the steps in between to get somewhere and to make
Yeah.
$1 million or build an app that has 1 million players. When they're starting with, they just the thought of, I wish I could get a YouTube channel with 1 million subs, and then they actually make it happen. A lot of people don't have the wherewithal to do that. And like, I no longer want to blame them. My question for you, everyone is like, what the fuck do we do with them? Because college is no longer the place to train most people. It's no longer the place to give people the skills they need for the workplace. So it's like, what is going to replace college in giving people a linear progression to
Well,
get into jobs and skills and
I
what is
think
that now?
I think the context there's something addition like something I can add to the context here because I think it's not just that some people have natural inklings for certain things. Like I would say I do have a naturally self-starter entrepreneurial personality, but if I had a specific goal and it was like I needed to build this thing that doesn't exist and or I needed to research this topic that doesn't exist and it's for some greater good and I'm like really I want to become great or do something great or I want to focus on this one thing. Hell yeah, I'm gonna want someone else calling some shots when it comes to how I eat. Like I would need so much time to in the day to get that done. And I think it's like a role thing. It's like some people are the hunters that get their job is to get the resources for you and for the people and they go and they like find the value, they find the buffalo, they get it and they bring it back for everybody. They build the businesses, right? They've set up the infrastructure that didn't exist from their vision so you can have somewhere to go. Like someone had to start Six Sigma and all that. Like someone had to like there were people that did these things and those people don't need college. That's just a fact. Like that's just like people that are the ones that are finding value in building so that other people can have resources. They don't need college, but a lot of the roles within that, like you need, like you don't want a world with everyone like that. I don't want my kids to live in a world with everyone like that. That sucks. Like it's like that means everyone's like thinking in this resource scarcity. You kind of want to have some people that's like this guy just needs to focus on making and fixing shoes. We need that in our
Yeah, we need.
society. Let's just have that. But in terms of what you're saying about like what do we do with people with college? Well, first off, we need to go back to universities being for researching and knowledge and training. And I know that's super general statement, but like I know a lot of people going out of college being like, I actually feel I learned a ton of ideas and that was interesting, but I don't actually know how to do anything, and that's
Well,
a travesty.
and it became we needed to detach college from the like college became is when college essentially became a scam when we started telling people it was like this foundational experience for being a young fun person, like that's how you go find yourself is in college as a young person. And it's like my grandfather did not go to college to find himself. He went to college so that he no longer had to live in a one bedroom apartment with six people. You know, like that's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
he
yeah.
went to college. And he went to a state school that was as affordable as humanly possible. And for most of history, if people went to college, even brilliant people, but if you were a brilliant person that lived in Ohio, you went to the University of fucking Ohio. You
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
go to Stanford unless you had a specific, like, I'm going to go become a lawyer and I'm going to be on this path, like very, very unique cases. But most people went to state schools, which were cheap, much cheaper in the past, and they went for a very specific purpose, which was like, I was really trying to learn and grow so I could go get into business. The second college became commoditized and became this like, oh, I'm going to go party and have a good time with my friends, that's when people started getting fucked, because then it was like, you're paying for an experience rather than an education to make you money. And
Yeah.
experience, people will just jack up and fuck you however they can because you're dumb enough to give them $300,000 for a marketing degree from a B tier university. It's like
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
And also like, and this is mostly for the guys out there, the college age guys out there. Um, Chasing experience can lead to purely like being in a place where you value and chase experience can lead to your ruin. And I mean, and I know that that might trigger some people because you're like, no, I need to experience everything, but it's like you don't. And like in fact, part of becoming a man is learning what, like making a choice, like learning how to make decisions and sacrifices. And you're gonna have to sacrifice a ton of experiences to hit your goals. And like I think there's a lot of people, especially in the our generation, probably in past, like the maybe like 97 and under, 98 and under, older generations are like very, I think that there's a ton of lost people past, like that just they keep getting more lost and chaotic as they develop, which is the opposite of what should happen. And I think a lot of it is because it's like, oh, you just keep experiencing things and that's how you grow. It's like, no, yeah, like when you're young, you should experience a ton and like go out and do. I'm not saying don't like try a lot of stuff. You should, but like, well, the right stuff. But like, uh, but but like, but you should reach a point where you're like, no, okay, now I need to make it count, and you should like be able to make a choice to like be like, okay, I have to not do this thing, I have to not go to this party because I need to work or whatever. That's just one example. In college, I think is not, it's like doing the opposite for a lot of people. It's like teaching them, yeah,
And also, like, if you're trying to grow quickly in college, 90% of people in college are there to fucking have a good time. Let's be abundantly clear about what they're there to do: drink,
yeah,
have
yeah,
sex, and like roll out of bed and like maybe go to a math class twice a week. But most people there are not trying to better themselves and grow their careers, and that's fine. But realize that now that you're choosing to go to college, you're surrounded with 95% of people who are not trying to grow their
Yeah.
career, make money, work on businesses. And that's your choice to be in that environment. So if you're at a college right now and you are a young man that's looking to grow and work on businesses and be entrepreneurial, you need to find the places on campus where there are other people like you who are working and hustling and building things. Stop going to parties. Start go to there was something at my university called Blackstone, and it would basically be the Blackstone Launchpad, which is just like a little box in the middle of the library that just would like have an entrepreneurial coach and a bunch of other students working on businesses that would all come there and just work. And it was an environment for me to just hang out with other people who weren't partying all the time and actually had interest in working on stuff. And that isn't making a judgment of people partying, but it's like, be honest with yourself. If you're in a place where everyone isn't trying to grow and work on yourself, how like how are you that surprised that you're struggling to work on stuff and be motivated yourself? Your
Yeah.
environment is not conducive to your goals.
And I was mentoring someone recently, like an early or college age engineer, and it was like crazy hearing him say this. And this is something where I was like, because actually, as a preface, what I'm about to say, understand, you schemers, that part of your job is to do the work so that people have the infrastructure to thrive. It's like you do the work so everyone else can have the resources and infrastructure to thrive. Now, that being said, after this mentorship call, I'm talking to this kid. He's a college age kid, and he's like, "Hey, like he's just like trying to find mentors online that like have interesting lives and careers to learn something." And he's from a fairly reputable university, and was saying, and I was like telling him pretty much everything Jack and I are saying like now about like, work and high performance, passion and loving your work and gratitude and all this stuff, and like asking him questions and like trying to like get him to think more, and like he was like, yeah, no one's ever talked to me like this. And he was also like, yeah, no one in my environment is like this at all. And he goes to like like a fairly top university in America. And I was like, if you want any fucking motivation to build, that's it. Like like think about the travesty in our country where there's that many young guys without any infrastructure, because that should be common. You should be able to walk around and be like, "Hey, dude, like, some guy's working on a car, and he literally teaches you a skill that you're going to keep for the rest of your life or something." You should be able to walk around and have mentors everywhere, and that's in college is just for you to be lost with a bunch of lost retards.
Literally, I had one of my, I had a young guy calling me who was just, hates his job, working in financial services, just, went to a good school, got decent grades, works at like a very reputable financial services company doing something that's like fine, but he hates what he's doing. And what he really likes, he's smart, he's hardworking, he's very good at talking to people, he's very social. He really likes boats. I'm like, I don't know, like maybe in the summers you should try like being a boat captain part time. Like he knows people that operate boat yards. He knows people that do that. Like could you have a business that like does, freighting or boating or fishing tours or whatever? He's from Florida originally. And I'm like there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, he's been so conditioned by his parents, his family, and the people around him to keep on this corporate path, this corporate drone
Yeah,
path. But now he's fallen into bad habits, drinking, going out, and because he hates what he's doing and he's hiding from his true desires, like the
yeah,
things he's actually passionate about, because he thinks he's a dumb person if he's not working and fine. I'm like, dude, you're using your brain just as much in this dumb corporate drone job than you would boating around and like entertain like in building a boating business. Literally.
yeah. And for a lot of people, so it's like it's funny because a lot of people are like, okay, well, like it's more valuable. This is the like devil's advocate, I guess, is like it's more valuable if he goes and trains to be an accountant or to do something else that is more needed than to work on boats. And it's like, no, 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 it's the opposite. You want to live in a world, because this is the world that existed outside of America before America started, where things were dull and people who didn't want to fucking do shit went and they did the thing on the path that they wanted to do, while everyone else just fell in line and they were surrounded by a lot of people that were dull and they didn't. And by the way, I'm not saying it was all bad at all. America isn't perfect. But one of the great things about America is there's something beautiful about you drawing your attention to something you love and having the ability to show the world that love through business and competing in the market. And it's like, would you rather buy a boat from a guy who sacrificed all the opportunities in his life to give you this perfect boat, or a guy who just did it because his dad sold boats? And it's like what type of what type of communication are you going to have with this person that's selling you this? And it's like that's why when people talk about Eastern Europeans talk about communist Russia and like how it really was back then, they'll say, "Oh yeah, you go to like Walmart." Or, that's my American brain, but it's like you go to the store or you go to like these places and no one gives a fuck. It's like the first thing I had when I went to America is realizing to like the someone from Soviet Russia is like people just like cared more. Like everyone like people just cared more. And it's like don't take that for granted, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a conversation we've had so many times, which is like authenticity sells. Like it's the thing
Yeah.
that sells the most. People can tell when you actually give a shit and when you're doing something that comes naturally. It's infectious. And we all know that when you have that friend who maybe he's not that talented at singing, but he has real heart and like you love watching him sing and you're pushing him constantly and he keeps improving time and time again. It's because it's really natural from him and it's like a true passion. It's not necessarily always your career, but the irony is if you focus on stuff that you are naturally good at and also is very authentic, people will be gravitated towards your authenticity. They always are. We can
Yeah.
tell when people are phonies. We can tell when their hearts aren't really in it. We can tell when people are drones. And we don't like that. We are drawn to authentic, engaging, and passionate people. And that will always be the case. It's like the hardest thing that will sell you in your career down the line.
And if you're like one of these college schemers and you're like insecure about your passion, you're insecure about these things that you're authentically interested in because you're like, well, I won't be able to make money on it, and like my parents want me to do this or I want to do this. Just if you, it's like you don't have to believe in this, but maybe think, what if your goal was to make it something so good with whatever you're passionate about that other people had your passion? And the interesting thing about that is you're creating value if you do that. That's creating value. It's like you're it's like that's if you want to know like whether or not your weird hobby is gonna be valuable in the market, that's valuable. Like that's immediate. If you can like do something so well, other people are drawn to it. You just created value.
Yeah, it's and even now it's like as we think about creating content, we think about clips, everything just comes
Yeah,
back to value. It's like
yeah,
who is the audience of people you're making value, you're trying to provide value for, and how can you continue to talk to them and engage them in a way that's more and more valuable.
yeah,
What will be the next thing they find valuable? And many people have lots of insights and knowledge that they don't even realize are valuable, that they just have to figure out how to distribute that knowledge in a way that more people that care about that are going to see it, and more people are then going to be able to compensate them or give them momentum to consider pursuing something that they actually care about.
yeah,
But it all comes back to value.
yeah. And it's like I think a part of like the college like years is I think like there's so many people like I've met so many people like this that in their college years they're just like they don't really know it's valuable, and a lot of it is like the middle class and up American generation where it's like they haven't had to like not a lot, not everyone. I'm not like if you this isn't you, that's fine, but it's like they haven't had to face value, like face a world that didn't have value, so they didn't really think of it critically. So it's like you're in a degree in communications and you're like, well, why am I doing this? Where's the value in it? It's partially because their brains haven't been tuned to like find value. And really, that's what schemers do. Schemers are people that like find value. I get any good schemer, and Jack, you probably have had this moment and know people that have. they always had some moment where they had to think about the value of things. Like I know it's a little abstract, but it's like some like moment in your life where you're like, whoa, like this like thing is valuable because of this. And like if no one made this, like some guy, random guy decided to make this laptop, and if no one did it, then like tons of things wouldn't have worked. Like you start reverse engineering how the world works, and then you're like, oh shit, like you can kind of just do whatever you want. Reads like, how about people who don't have passion for anything? For instance, me, I'm not playing the victim here. I'm honestly so comfortable doing shit I don't like, but I want to know in general. That's fine. You don't have to have passion. I mean, you probably do. It's just it's not for anything that's professionally related. Are you passionate about your family?
Yeah, are you passionate about exercise? Are you passionate about knowledge and learning and reading? There's probably things out there that you're passionate about. But I will say that there is a segment of people, like I had an old co-founder, actually Jared, the co-founder that you know, who is much more dead set on like being successful, and he just liked work. He loved working. He hustled and worked hard, and for him, it was less about something he was passionate about, although he had plenty of passions, and I'm sure he might be working on something. I don't know. I'm actually not exactly sure what he's working on these days. But I remember having conversations with him. It was just like it was passion and self-interest and create like that was less important to him than just working hard. And if that gives you meaning and you're interested in just like hustling, making more money and growing and improving, and you have what then I would tell you is make sure that you are working towards a goal because otherwise you may not that there may not be a good healthy light at the end of the tunnel for yourself. So if you're just comfortable, if you're just hustling because you like working hard and you want to grow and make more money and improve, that's fine. Just make sure you're working towards a goal that's actually good for you. It's something that like when you achieve that goal, you're not going to be hollow and sad and be like, what the fuck was I doing the last 5 years? That would be my only
Yeah,
concern.
yeah. There's a lot of like, and it's so funny. Like it's weird to talk about this because it's like almost like a knock on wood thing to talk about because it can happen to you. But it's like there's always moments of like emptiness. I feel like
Mm.
if you haven't followed your passion enough, or you look back and you have regret and things like that, and it happens to a lot of people. But I feel like there's no way. It's good to not try to avoid it because I think that's another thing. You should just let life happen and do follow your heart and everything. But like, it's good to at least do an inner search of like, what's yourself? Like who
Mm.
are you behind all the bullshit, and are you actually like passionate about like it's like if you're not passionate about professional things, like is it like something that's like some dream of like you being on island or whatever, and you want to like build that? Like think of something that's like think of like dig deep, spend every day digging deep.
Yeah, and for me, it was like I don't always work on companies that I'm interested in, but I like to do stuff at I make sure that what I'm doing at companies or for a job or whatever is work that I'm naturally good at, and I find I'm growing at and getting and like I can be I'm providing my value. Like I'll be honest, cryptocurrency and crypto gaming, what I was very interested in it. I was really interested in gaming, but it wasn't necessarily my all-time passion. But what I was getting to do was I was getting to public speak. I was getting to record videos. I was getting to build a community. All three of these things, like when I pictured myself, you know, being an actor or being a public speaker or being a YouTuber, being a filmmaker, or a director, I realized that like in all of those jobs, communicating, building community, and being creative were all three core components of that. So I picked jobs that use my dream aspirations when every dream I ever had almost always was using some variation of those three skills:
Yeah,
building
yeah,
community, public speaking, and being creative. And then I was thinking about how can I just continue doing things and doing jobs that involve my favorite skill sets, the things that are most important to me, and the things I'm trying to grow at. Because then, even if I don't love, like, I work for a yogurt company, I may not love fucking yogurt, but I like my job enough that I'm growing and nurturing those skills so that if I leave, I can leverage everything I've done to focus on something I'm passionate towards. Because at the end of the day, like
yeah.
life is about trying to find something you're actually passionate about doing and working at, even if it's building a family, if it's building a coffee shop, if it's making a YouTube channel, it's about finding something you're passionate about and continuing with it until you're satisfied, happy, and you can, you can die self-assured and self-actualized.
I want to take a little left turn a little bit because you posted a little video on the Discord about this guy who is, I didn't watch it, but like this guy who's like 25 and has no friends. What do you, was that you who posted that or am
I
I?
did, that was me.
Oh, that was you. Yeah. What do you think about? And I didn't see it, but like I can kind of probably get what it was. What do you think about that loner type? Because I think, I mean, I don't think it's growing a ton. It just is like the internet, social media. Like there's tons of social alienation, especially in that college age. What do you think? Like, what do you think about that? Like, do you think that like, let's say someone's like, "Hey, Jack, like all this is great, but like I just don't have anyone in my life, and I just like what should I do about that?"
So I think you have to. I think the first step is understanding how good relationships form. There's really two core components of good relationships. One is shared experience. So you share an experience with someone that bonds you. So you have something that you guys are related around. That could be going to school together, seeing a play together, witnessing a car crash. Why do you think like plane crash survivors are bonded? They have this very unique shared experience, which brings
Yeah.
people together. So shared experiences bring people together. So if you have a hobby or an interest and you like jujitsu or you like film or you like whatever, go to events, go to seek out places where you're going and having a shared experience with other people related to your interest. That's level one. And then the next part, once you have a shared experience or you're engaging in places where you have shared experience, the next thing is be vulnerable. Like how you develop relationships and how trust is formed is something I like is called the vulnerability loop. And the vulnerability loop, which I've talked to you about, Jared, is a very simple concept. It's when you're nurturing relationships, relationships get deeper the more vulnerable each party in the relationship is. So if I share vulnerability with Jared, Jared then shares vulnerability with me, and then I acknowledge his vulnerability. It cycles back, and then Jared, I have the opportunity to be more vulnerable. Jared once again acknowledges my vulnerability and shares more vulnerability himself, and all of a sudden this cycle is completed. And so a vulnerability loop is completed, and the more times we're vulnerable, acknowledge each other's vulnerability, and then share something of our own, the deeper relationships are formed and the more trust is established. So you should focus on shared interest and shared experience and then be vulnerable with the people that you meet so that you have an opportunity to build authentic relationships with them and build relationships that last.
What if like the kid hears that and he's like, "Yeah, vulnerability's gay. I just want to fuck bitches and make money. How do I do that?"
Well, then I would say get on Tinder. I mean, the dating apps make it real easy. Pay for probably, I'd buy all the dating apps, premium subscriptions, set up a bot to just respond to lots of girls and go on a million
Interesting
dates.
video. Yeah. No, yeah, I it's funny. Well, you know what's interesting though with the shared interest thing. It's so funny cuz like I've had talks with people that are like those type, like the loner types that want to get outside. And it's so funny cuz like I'll like see someone who says that they're lonely and they're introverted and they're all this and the a lot of self defeat and self talk that's like not great. And then like I'll look at their lives and I'll be like, you have so many people in your life and you just don't know it. It's
Yeah.
like how many people do you actually have in your life that like are that exist in your life, and how many of these people do you start conversations with, or do you propose to do things with? How many people do you like spend time with? Because like a real reality to this world is no one's gonna, especially if you're a man, no one's at the end of the day, no one's really gonna do anything for you. And like you can be lost forever and never found. And then no one's gonna be, it's not gonna be like some like, I don't know, Hollywood movie with Zoe Deschanel where she's like, "Oh wow, let me fix you" or whatever. No, you're just gonna like die on a park bench. Like
Yeah.
that's like a reality. So you're gonna have to like and it's so funny because I don't want to get too into this, but it's like I've had moments when I was really young where I was so like dis or withdrawn and like had nothing in terms of anything social, and like so much to an extent that that I'm like, it's actually like amazing. I was like, wow, how did I like get out of like that mindset? And I'll look back and I'm like, oh, it was like hope. Like I had like there was like a sense of like, oh, like things can actually get better if I like keep going. And I think that like if you like, it's good if you don't just like destroy your life to get to that point, or you don't do the whole like losing all hope is freedom thing, in my opinion. But like, I think that like taking a second to just be like, you know what, uh, I'm gonna like go outside and it might be good today. I think that that's great.
Yeah, one thing I would do to change my mindset was I would just can't compliment strangers on the street. Like if I saw someone wearing a jacket that I liked or like had a cool haircut or something, I'd just be like, "Hey man, love your hair." And that single moment, A, it made me feel great, but it literally was the best part of everyone's day. And it's like, but my point of being that is like that I can't tell you how many times I'm doing something like that, and then I get like a date out of it, or I meet someone.
Mhm.
Someone's like, "Oh, where are you going?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to this event." They're like, "Can I come with you?" And like you have this
Dude,
opportunity to. It's simple though.
yeah, but well, based on your advice though, some kid's watching this, he's gonna like go up to some homeless guy and be like, "I was beat up in the eighth grade every day." He's gonna open up his vulnerabilities, and the homeless guy's gonna be like, get the fuck out of here, you fucking creep."
Hey, I said shared experience, and then once vulnerability loop
I'll
is
give you
step
a shared
two.
experience.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, that it's all
Maybe go to
good.
a pottery class if you like pottery. You know, like that would be my
Yeah,
place
yeah.
to open up to people. But
Okay, so what if it's like, okay, Jack, whatever, but I'm 19 and the only thing I like to do is jerk off and play video games. I don't like pottery. I don't like anything else. My only passion is jerking off and playing video games. What do I do?
wow. Um, I think that this is my answer is going to be just the same as it's going to be. It's this is going to suck for you, but you need to hear it. You need to stop jerking off and you need to stop playing video games.
Hey, those are the only things I like.
Well, then, all right. Well, then your only other option is you need to start like going to video game shops or like video game cafes and like meet people there. Or you have to become an OnlyFans star and start doing online collabs with people, reaching out to Instagram girls, Instagram thoughts, OnlyFans
Right.
girls, and then you
So
can start building authentic online relationships with other gamers and online OnlyFans stars.
So what if it's like, okay, I tried meeting other people like me that only like jerking off and playing video games, and they all suck and they're really bad. And now I'm self-reflecting, and I realize that I must suck and I'm really bad if these are my people. And now I just don't know what to do, Jack.
All right, I'm going to give you a real fucking answer. Jerking off and video games are not hobbies and they're not interests. It's dopamine addictions that you're stimulating your brain with, and you're an addict.
Okay.
So if your only two hobbies right now, you're a young man and your only two fucking hobbies are jerking off and playing video games, you're addicted. You basically are a crackhead. You're addicted to instant dopamine and you need to get off and start exploring hobbies. It's going to be a long road until you find actual things you're interested in, but like let's call a spade a spade. Like whenever I see these people being like, I'm addicted, I'm porn and video games, I don't care about anything. You're addicted. You're addicted to entertainment. You're addicted to
Yeah.
online reality. You're addicted to fucking short-term stimuli. You're addicted to beating your meat and getting that short-term addiction, short-term fulfillment. And you need to get off. You need to break away from this right now.
Yeah. Like if you're like, it's so funny because in person, I feel like some people don't like know this like often, but like when with my friends, I'm usually like the one who's like, "Oh no, man, like you can like everything's like good," but then like I've had so many situations where I've seen people like just like be like, "Oh okay," and then like destroy their lives, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, uh, "You're like a lot of people are so soft and squishy in our society that they genuinely can't live a life that they don't like and have a moment where they're like, I'm a piece of shit and stop. So I'll just do it. If you're all your whole life is jerking off and playing video games, you fucking suck. And that's the reality.
Yeah, and listen, it's not like we're all human. I've been a dumb 18 or 19-year-old who's jerking off and playing video games all summer. I've literally done that before as a dumb young man. Every young guy does it, or a lot of young guys do it. But like at
Yeah,
a
yeah,
certain
definitely.
point, you just have to grow the fuck up. And growing
Yeah,
the fuck up is part of growing the fuck up is realizing that you're just going to have to struggle and that life is going to be constant struggle. And then if you're not struggling, then you're not growing and you're not improving yourself. Like
and
self
yeah,
improvement is really hard. It requires being constantly uncomfortable. And if you're comfortable and happy with what you're doing, newsflash, you're not growing and you're avoiding reality. You're avoiding what you need to do.
yeah. It's like no one's gonna save you. No one. Like I probably like it. It's not like oh no, but he's just saying that. But like really, like I'm gonna go and like find like my Zoe Deschanel, and she's gonna like take me on a magical pixie adventure. I mean, like that's gonna happen. I know that you're just saying no, no, that's never going to happen. Your
You have to
dreams,
find them. You
your
have to find
dreams.
them. You have to nurture the relationship. You have to get a good job before that. You have to have self interest and hobbies. You have to take care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally.
No, 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 no,
And
no,
then you can have a hope of finding your Zoe Deschanel. But it's going to
no.
require all the steps before and after.
I need to look out my window and just be like, oh, oh, look at that life that I could have. I need to just wait. It's like no, you're. It's never. I promise you, the life that you're fantasizing about is never gonna happen if you don't like really check yourself and almost like add discipline to your life, like you're like a drill sergeant. Like force yourself, even if it's something so small as like a fucking cold shower or like going on a run every morning, like something that you think is like really like hackney like self-development shit that you see on it's like no 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 do it. I promise you if the discipline could be like you wake up every morning and you stretch for like 5 minutes, like it could be something that isn't even like stressful. It could be you meditate for 10 minutes, but like if you do something every single day and you hold yourself accountable like your fucking dad or your coach would, like I promise you your life will be way, you won't be looking out the window and fans on, you'll be in the fucking arena
Yeah, you'll be in the
with the
driver's seat.
boys.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
and
So
it's yeah,
I had a question for you that I'm forgetting. Damn, it was a good one, too.
and it's so funny because it's like that's the real issue. It's that analysis paralysis. It's like you're just thinking. You can think yourself into a fucking sweaty, cummy little paradise where you drown in your own semen.
Dude, I had this. I mean, not with those words, but I was having a conversation with my friend this weekend where he was just saying he was reminding me that I dwell, and like I think, especially as a young man, you have to understand that thinking is can be productive, but it can be equally unproductive. There's two types of kind of categories of thinking. There's like creative thinking, and then there's like overthinking.
Yeah,
The overthinking is like I think there is a point to which you can analyze every situation or everything that you do and encounter in your life. And I think doing base analysis of stuff is valuable, but you should never hyper analyze. If you have an awkward
no,
encounter with someone, you can think, I wonder if they're having a bad day. Did I say something wrong? And then it should really end there and you shouldn't think about it anymore. But if you're
yeah,
spending the rest of your day, like I often do, just like, I wonder if, did I say something bad? Maybe it was like, maybe I said something 2 weeks ago. And then I'm beating myself up, ruminating over thoughts. That's completely unproductive. And that's not what a healthy man does. I think
yeah,
you should analyze your problems, you should think about them, and then you should move on really quickly and start prioritizing action. Go see the trees in front of you. My friend was just pointing to me. He's like, "Go look at the sunset. That cloud's nice, isn't it?" And for a second, I just stopped thinking about what was happening, and I was just looking at the sunrise and noticing, wow, there's interesting colors happening over there. There's a tree over there. There's a bird over there. It's like get out of your own head, dwelling on issues, and actually be present to what's happening in front of you, and focus on
yeah.
action. Because dwelling will not help you. I promise.
And when you focus on action, really like that, like discipline of like holding yourself accountable to doing an action, that's where you get that. It doesn't seem like intuitive, but that is where you get the intuitive way of thinking and living, where it's like I just thought of something, and I believe in myself, so I'm gonna do it. And I think like part of if you do that enough and you're so focused enough, eventually you're gonna become like a really good. And if you're not gonna do it for yourself, do it for your lineage. It's like all those like times you grow up and like maybe your dad's a little rough on you, or like a coach, or like someone in your life is maybe being super intense, often to get you to do something. Growing up is often realizing that they weren't doing that. They were doing that because they probably saw a weakness that they had in you in that moment. And they
Mm,
know that you're made to fucking conquer it, and they're not. So the best they can do is be hard on you. But really, they probably have to let go and realize that it's all just on you, and
yeah.
understand when you don't fucking try and do it, it's like you're kind of fucking your lineage up.
Yeah.
And you can fuck your lineage up to a point where it's fucked and it ends with you. Like that's a choice.
It is a choice. I typically don't think about it in such medieval terms, but I like it.
I
It's a fun
do, dude. I
concept.
my whole life is like medieval, or the way I think is medieval as fuck.
I mean, I do have this fantasy though that like because I'm one of four boys and we have a unique last name. I do live in this world where we have like like a famous family crest. And like you look up the name and it's like
Yeah,
these are the four men that started the Kuvek Empire. Like
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I do love that idea.
Well, yeah, because it's real. Like
It
that's
is real.
real. Like that's not like
It's one of the oldest stories ever told. It's been
yeah,
told with family over family over family over decade, generation, millennium over millennium.
yeah. Generational power. Like if you don't have that, be the one to build it. Like make it your life to start it. Be that like guy that they talk about. Oh yeah, in 2020, in the 2020s, fucking Jack Kuvak was, though he like created like the first like manor or whatever, and that's where we live now, or like
Dude, I want a compound. The Kuvak compound, I
yeah,
will
yeah.
develop it.
It'd be like, oh yeah, the youngest Kuvek was he created the manor, and that's where we all live now, and now it's a town. Like, it's like that's
Kuvakville, Kuvakistan.
exactly. It's like it all just started with one guy who just was like, this is fucking. He was like digging in the trenches, and he's like, this fucking sucks.
Dude, I need my own fucking island. I fucking hate
Yeah,
these
yeah.
people.
Like he's like this, and he didn't give up. He was like, you know what? There's something better than me just
What
digging
if
for the shit all day.
what if I built an island in the Caribbean where I brought together powerful and influential people and I incentivized them with very tantalizing goods and services? What if I did that? You know?
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's like I wonder what would the world look like, and then they crushed, and they didn't just come their life away.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Any other final thoughts for the college schemers? What do you think?
Mm, nothing that comes to mind. This has been a good app. I mean, I want to. I have a lot. I think we'll have a lot more thoughts and advice for the college schemer as it comes. But honestly, maybe eventually it'd be great to do like a stream where we actually like work on a scheme together, like something we
Ooh,
could
that'd be
whip
fun.
together. Like, what could a college age schemer actually build with your
Yeah,
buddy in a couple hours? And maybe we film that live.
that'd be great. And just like scheme the whole thing and get the whole entire like how it's gonna get done in that like 10 minutes or 20 minutes or
Exactly.
whatever. That'd be awesome. I'm down. Let's do it.
Fuck yeah.
That's
Well,
up.
all right,
Anyway,
brother.
this has been a fun one. For everyone watching, like this video, subscribe, check out the Spotify, whatever. We're trying to get the distribution down. So any link that makes sense for you, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whatever, you don't know, then comment about it. Um, and yeah, have a good day.
Peace out.